child, and my mom pushes me out when I take my stand. My perfect sister then runs away with mom's money, leaving her devastated. I, 23F, lived with my mom, 52F, and elder sister, 26F, in our family home. It had been this way ever since my dad passed away 5 years ago. My sister, let's call her Emma, was always mom's favorite. This wasn't just my imagination. It was pretty obvious to anyone who spent more than 5 minutes with our family. Growing up, Emma always got the newest clothes, the latest gadgets, and the most attention. Mom would attend all of Emma's school events, but when it came to mine, there was always some excuse. "I'm too tired," or "I have to work late," she'd say. It stung, but I got used to it. Things didn't change much as we got older. Emma went to a prestigious university to study law, while I chose to attend a local community college for my associate's degree in graphic design. Mom couldn't stop bragging about Emma to anyone who would listen. "My Emma is going to be a big-shot lawyer one day," she'd say proudly. Meanwhile, my chosen career path was met with indifference at best and disappointment at worst. But the real issue wasn't just the favoritism, it was the unfair distribution of responsibilities at home. Since Emma was focusing on her studies, I was expected to take care of all the household chores. And when I say all, I mean all of them. Every morning, I'd wake up at 6 a.m. to start my day. First, I'd make breakfast for everyone. Mom liked her eggs sunny side up with toast, no crust. Emma preferred a veggie omelet with a side of fruit. I'd usually just grab a granola bar for myself as I rushed around. After breakfast, I'd clean up the kitchen, do the dishes, and start a load of laundry before heading out for my part-time job at a local coffee shop. I worked there to save up money for my own place and to contribute to the household expenses, even though Mom never asked Emma to chip in. When I'd get home in the afternoon, there was always more to do. Vacuuming, dusting, mopping, you name it, I did it. I'd also be in charge of grocery shopping and meal planning. Mom had a lot of dietary restrictions, and Emma was picky, so this was always a challenge. Dinner was another production. I'd cook elaborate meals while Emma lounged on the couch, scrolling through her phone. Mom would chat with her about her day, her studies, her future plans. I'd be lucky to get a word in sideways. After dinner, guess who was stuck with the cleanup? Yep, me again. And if I ever dared to complain or ask for help, Mom would give me this disappointed look and say something like, "Your sister needs to focus on her studies. She's going to have a bright future and take care of us all one day. The least you can do is help out around the house." It was exhausting, both physically and emotionally. I felt like a maid in my own home, constantly running around while Emma got to relax and enjoy herself. The worst part was, Mom didn't seem to notice or care about my efforts. It was always Emma this and Emma that. One particular day, things came to a head. It was a Saturday, and I had planned to meet up with some friends from college. We were going to work on a group project for our design class. I had been looking forward to it all week, not just for the project, but for the chance to get out of the house and have some social interaction that didn't involve serving coffee or doing chores. I woke up early, as usual, to get my chores done before leaving. As I was making breakfast, Mom came into the kitchen. "Oh, good, you're up," she said. "I need you to deep clean the living room today. The carpet needs shampooing and the curtains need to be taken down and washed." I felt my heart sink. "But Mom," I protested, "I have plans today. I told you about my group project, remember?" Mom frowned. "Can't you reschedule? This is important. We're having guests over next week and I want the house to look perfect." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I can't reschedule. We've been planning this for weeks. Maybe Emma could help with the cleaning?" As if on cue, Emma walked into the kitchen, still in her pajamas despite it being nearly 10 a.m. "Morning?" she yawned, grabbing a muffin from the plate I had just set out. Mom's face softened as she turned to Emma. "Good morning, sweetie. Did you sleep well? Don't forget you have that online study group later." Emma nodded, her mouth full of muffin. Mom turned back to me, her expression hardening again. "Your sister has important studying to do. She can't be expected to clean. You know how crucial her education is." I felt something snap inside me. All the frustration, anger, and hurt that had been building up over the years came pouring out. "And what about my education?" I asked, my voice rising. "What about my plans, my life? Don't they matter at all?" Mom looked taken aback. "Of course they matter, but—" I cut her off. "But not as much as Emma's, right? Never as much as Emma's." Emma, who had been watching this exchange with wide eyes, finally spoke up. "Hey, don't drag me into this. It's not my fault Mom asks you to do the chores." That just made me angrier. "No, it's not your fault, but you've never once offered to help. You just sit back and let it happen." Mom tried to intervene. "Now, let's all calm down. There's no need to—" But I was on a roll now. Years of pent-up emotions were spilling out, and I couldn't stop them. "No, Mom. I'm done calming down. I'm done being the maid in this house. I'm done being treated like I'm less important than Emma. I'm done with the favoritism, the unfair expectations, all of it. I turned to Emma. You want to know why Mom never asks you to do chores? It's because she thinks you're going to be this big success and take care of her in the future. That's a lot of pressure, isn't it? But hey, at least you get to relax now while I do all the work. Emma's face flushed. That's not fair. I work hard at my studies. And I don't? I shot back. I'm working part-time, studying, and doing all the housework. When do I get to focus on my future? Mom tried to step in again. Sweetheart, you know we appreciate everything you do. It's just that Emma's career path is more, well, it's going to be more financially rewarding in the long run. Those words hit me like a slap in the face. So that's it then? My worth to this family is measured by how much money I might make in the future? Mom backtracked quickly. That's not what I meant. It's just that law is a more stable career than what you're studying. Graphic design, Mom. I'm studying graphic design. Have you even bothered to learn anything about it? About what I want to do with my life? The look on Mom's face told me everything I needed to know. She hadn't bothered. She'd written off my career choice without ever really understanding it. I felt tears stinging my eyes, but I blinked them back. I wasn't going to cry. Not now. You know what? I'm done. I'm not cleaning the living room today. I'm going to meet my friends and work on my project. And when I get back, we're going to have a serious conversation about how things run in this house, or I'm moving out. With that, I grabbed my bag and stormed out of the kitchen, leaving Mom and Emma staring after me in shock. As I slammed the front door behind me, I felt a mix of emotions. Anger, hurt, but also a strange sense of relief. For the first time in years, I had stood up for myself. The rest of the day was a blur. I met up with my friends and threw myself into our project, trying to push the morning's confrontation out of my mind. But as the day wore on, doubts started to creep in. Had I overreacted? Was I being selfish? Maybe I should have just rescheduled my plans and done the cleaning as Mom asked. Update. I returned home late that evening, mentally exhausted from the day's events but determined to have that serious conversation I'd promised. However, as soon as I walked through the door, I could feel the tension in the air. Mom and Emma were both in the living room, but they barely glanced at me when I entered. Hey, I said hesitantly. Can we talk? Silence. They both stared straight ahead at the TV, though I could tell neither was really watching it. I took a deep breath and decided to push forward anyway. Look, I know this morning was intense, but I really think we need to address this. All I'm asking for is a little help from Emma with the household chores. It would make me feel like we're being treated equally. Finally, Mom turned to face me, her expression cold. I think you've said quite enough already. Emma chimed in, her voice dripping with disdain. Yeah, we heard you loud and clear this morning. You're jealous of me and my potential future. How selfish can you be? I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Selfish? How is asking for help selfish? Mom shook her head. You're disrupting the peace in this house. Emma needs to focus on her studies. You're just jealous because you know your little hobby won't amount to much. Hobby? I repeated, incredulous. Graphic design is a real career, Mom. If you'd ever bothered to learn about it. Enough! Mom cut me off. I won't have you disrespecting us like this in our own home. I stood there, stunned. I'd hoped that maybe, just maybe, they'd have reflected on what I said and realized how unfair things had been. But instead, they doubled down. Our own home, I repeated softly. Right. Well, I guess it's not my home anymore. Without another word, I turned and went to my room. I threw some clothes and essentials into a backpack, grabbed my laptop, and walked back out. Mom and Emma were still in the living room, steadfastly ignoring me. I'll be at Sarah's, I said, referring to a close friend from college. I'll come back for the rest of my stuff later. As I closed the door behind me, I felt a mixture of sadness and relief. I knew this wasn't a permanent solution, but for now, I needed space to think and plan my next move. At least at Sarah's, I wouldn't be treated like a maid or made to feel worthless. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing. I deserve better than this. It's time I started believing that. Update. It's been about 3 months since I moved out of my family home, and I have to say, it's been a revelation. I've been staying with my friend Sarah, splitting rent and chores equally. The change in my daily life has been dramatic. Without the constant burden of all the household responsibilities, I've been able to focus on my studies and my budding career in graphic design like never before. I've completed several freelance projects, built up my portfolio, and even landed an internship at a local marketing firm. It's amazing what you can achieve when you're not exhausted from being everyone else's maid. But life has a way of throwing curveballs, doesn't it? Last week, I ran into our neighbor, Mrs. Johnson, at the grocery store. She asked how I was doing and then, with a concerned look, asked about Mom. Apparently, she'd noticed Mom struggling with yard work and looking overwhelmed lately. I offered to help, Mrs. Johnson said, but your mother insisted she was fine. I thought maybe Emma was helping her out. I felt a pang of guilt, quickly followed by frustration. Of course, Emma wasn't helping. Why would she start now? But that wasn't even the biggest shock. Mrs. Johnson, in her well-meaning but gossipy way, dropped another bombshell. And how is Emma doing with her studies? I hope that situation with Professor Andrews hasn't affected her too much. I must have looked confused because Mrs. Johnson's eyes widened. Oh dear, I thought you knew. Emma's been seen around town with Professor Andrews quite a lot. There's been talk. I thanked Mrs. Johnson and left the store in a daze. Emma, my perfect sister who was supposed to be focusing on her bright future-in-law, was fooling around with a professor? And apparently, it was serious enough that the neighbors were noticing and gossiping about it. Part of me felt a twisted sense of satisfaction. The golden child wasn't so golden after all. But mostly, I felt sad. Sad for Mom, who was now struggling alone with all the chores I used to do. Sad for Emma, who was risking her future for a fling with a professor. And sad for our family, which seemed to be falling apart without me there to hold it together. I'm not sure what to do with this information. Part of me wants to reach out, to try and mend fences. But another part remembers the hurt, the years of being treated as less than, and wonders if it's worth it. For now, I'm focusing on my own growth and healing. I'm learning to value myself and my chosen career path. I'm building a life where I'm respected and my contributions are appreciated. Maybe someday Mom and Emma will realize what they've lost. Maybe they won't. But I know that I'm better off now, standing on my own 2 feet, than I ever was trying to earn their approval. Update: life has a way of coming full circle, doesn't it? 6 months later, just when I thought I had everything figured out, the universe decided to throw another curveball my way. It was a quiet Sunday evening. I was working on a freelance project when my phone rang. It was Mom. I hesitated before answering. We hadn't spoken much since I left. When I picked up, I was met with the sound of my mother sobbing uncontrollably. "Mom, what's wrong?" I asked, my heart racing. Through her tears, she managed to choke out, "Emma. She's gone. She ran away. With some boy from her university. And she took most of my savings." I felt like I'd been drenched with cold water. Despite everything, Emma was still my sister, and hearing that she'd done something so reckless and hurtful was shocking. "I'm coming over," I said, already grabbing my keys. When I arrived at my childhood home, the sight nearly broke my heart. The house was a mess, nothing like the immaculate home Mom had always maintained. And Mom, she looked like she'd aged years in just a few months. As soon as she saw me, she broke down again. I held her as she cried, feeling a mix of emotions I couldn't quite sort out. When she calmed down, Mom looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. "I've been such a fool," she said softly. "These past few months, they've opened my eyes. I was so wrong about so many things. About Emma, about you." She took my hands in hers. "You were always the responsible one, the one I could count on. And instead of appreciating you, I took you for granted. I'm so sorry, sweetheart." I felt tears welling up in my own eyes. This was the acknowledgement I'd always wanted, but never thought I'd get. "I know I don't deserve it," Mom continued, "but I need you. Would you consider coming back home? I promise things will be different." Part of me wanted to refuse, to protect myself from potentially being hurt again. But looking at Mom, vulnerable and genuinely remorseful, I knew I couldn't turn my back on her. "Okay, Mom," I said softly. "I'll come back. But things really do need to be different this time." She nodded eagerly, relief washing over her face. "They will be, I promise." So here I am, back in my childhood home. It's strange and a little uncomfortable, but also oddly comforting. Mom and I are learning to communicate better, to appreciate each other. She's taken a genuine interest in my graphic design work, even asking me to teach her some basics. We're working together to clean up the house and sort out the financial mess Emma left behind. It's not easy, but we're managing. As for Emma, we haven't heard from her. I hope she's safe, but I can't help feeling angry at her for what she's done. I'm continuing my freelance work and my internship, and Mom is respecting my time and space to do so. It's a delicate balance, but we're figuring it out day by day. I don't know what the future holds. Part of me is still wary, still protecting my heart. But another part is hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, this is the fresh start our family needed. It's not the happily ever after I might have once imagined, but it's real. And for now, that's enough.